Hello everyone. From the last stream I actually found some things to talk about. I've also done some more things once again. I want to talk about awesome window manager signals. So in AwesomeWM you can connect to a bunch of different signals and execute your custom code when that signal happens. So all of the emojis that you see here depend on signals in one way or another. Some of them don't, but we'll get to that. So, for example, you want to make a widget that displays. Sure, let's start with this. It's a bit easier. The current client's icon. You want to create a widget like that. Well, there's actually a built-in one, which is kind of shit, which is why I'm thinking of making my own, but long story short, it depends on multiple signals. We should update this every time focus changes. So we change our focus to a different window, we should update this widget to include the new icon. Okay, then what happens if we switch to a desktop that does not have a window? If we only changed on focus, the icon would still be here. I guess because of how it works is that the previous window is still the only window that was focused last. By switching to a desktop that doesn't have any windows, we're not focusing any windows. So we also need to update this icon anytime we unfocus a window, which that's also a signal that you can connect to. Alright, I wonder, did this get fixed? Yeah, and that's actually even stranger. For some odd reason, on last stream, I couldn't use middle click, which I usually use to erase. And I changed nothing in Gromit-MPX, which is the program that I'm currently using to draw, but it got fixed magically. That's very strange, but obviously I'm glad that it got fixed. So that's for the icon thing. Here I have another widget that shows me the class and title of the currently focused window. It shares the same idea. On focus, we change it, and on unfocus, we clear it. And there are a lot of different signals that you can make use of in making your widgets automatically update when something happens. Yesterday, I made such a widget that is quite neat, and kind of strange that this isn't a default widget, or maybe it is and I just haven't found it, but this is a feature that feels very obvious to me. The ability to see the amount of master windows and master columns. And I am talking about this widget here. I created it yesterday, and on the left it shows us we have 1 master windows and we have 1 columns in the tiled windows that are not master windows. Both concepts are kind of confusing if you haven't used a window manager before, or rather a tiling kind of thing, whatever it is. Doesn't have to be window manager, maybe you used Bismuth or that like other one. Oh, Cronkite on KDE. Those have those concepts as well, but without that conceptual knowledge, they're not very obvious, I wouldn't say. So let me show you what are master windows and what are columns. Currently, you can see in the corner of my screen, my layout looks like this. So it has 1 master window. So this is the main window that is going to be the biggest one usually, with a bunch of tiled windows to the right. So this is the big window, and if we open another window, it will tile to the right. This is still the master window, even though it's not the biggest, it is exactly the same as this one. It is still the master window, because if we open another window, the master window doesn't change, because, well, it's the master window, but the new window, which is not a master window, gets tiled like this. Let's open another window, so we can more clearly see what master windows and columns mean. So the master window is like the one that's supposed to take up the most space, ideologically. It won't necessarily, because let me actually show you. We can make it smaller to the point of this master window not really being a master window. If you look at it, it takes up the least space actually, but it is still considered a master window. So what happens if we make it so we have less master windows on this tag, on this workspace? Let's press the hotkey for this, and now you can see in the widget that we have 0 master windows, and that just means that all of the windows tile like this, tile like non-master windows. Alright, what if we increase it to 2 instead? This is what happens. To kind of explain or elaborate what is happening here, is going to be useful to create another window. You see how it works now? We have 2 master windows that are both together meant to take up the most space, and all the other windows tile here. So that's kind of how it works. Alright, let's reset our master window count and now increase columns. Pretty simple. So all the other windows that tile, with a single column, they just split horizontally in this layout specifically, but the idea is pretty understandably similar in other layouts. We have 1 column, so if we increase it, we get 2 columns, then 3, then 4, then 5 if I had more windows. So that's the kind of meaning that columns and master windows portray. If it wasn't, like, if they didn't exist, the layouting system in AwesomeWM would actually be pretty limited, because the main layouts, let me actually show you. Let's go to 3 windows and go to a certain layout that looks like this. I didn't expect it to look like this. That's very strange. Yeah, so this is the master window, even though I would expect this one to be, but I guess not. So the master window stays in the corner. If I try to resize it, I resize it down or to be bigger, both other windows resize, and there is no way to specifically increase the height, for example. See, if I'm trying to move it, nothing happens. Well, for what it's worth, nothing happens even now, but that's not the issue of my mouse resizing. That's kind of how AwesomeWM works, I guess. You don't have the option to individually resize windows. You only have the option to resize the master windows. So you can either make it smaller, like the master windows, or make it bigger. You don't have an option to specifically make this window taller, or shorter, or lengthier, or whatever. Which is pretty sad. I was put off by it. Like, no way that's how it works. But I've been using it for around a week, and I haven't come across a situation where I was like, damn, I wish I could resize this window specifically. Basically, this problem hasn't come up yet. Maybe it's just a matter of time, or maybe indeed it's not that necessary. I don't know yet. So, let's set a layout something like this. Let's actually bring chat into the picture. Something like this. Actually this. So, this master and column widget, how does it work? It picks up 3 or maybe 4 different signals and executes the updating code. So let's go and look at it. We search for signals. It should be somewhere in here. Wait, no, that's the wrong thing. Here it is. So I have this function, and overall this widget. I create the widget, set up the margins, whatever, you know. And I have this function to update this widget that takes in tag as a variable, so the tag that you have selected. We get the master count, the count of master windows on this tag, and the count of columns on this tag. And we get the actual text that we put in this widget. So now we only need to figure out when to call this function, when to update it. Now, of course, we could just update it every so often. I have quite a few updaters here for widgets from here to here. They're just updated very frequently. I'll come back to this if I remember. Oh, I can actually use this new feature. Frequent updaters. So I don't forget to talk about this later. So yeah, we could just update it every so often. That's not precise, because what if you want to change the amount of master windows? You would want that to be reflected immediately rather than having to wait for it. So here we attach to the signal of property master count. What does this mean? In AwesomeWM, you can connect to signals of when properties of some class change. So when on a tag the property of master count changes, execute this code, and this can be any code that you want. Here I update the widget and I pass the tag to it. So when you change the master count, that change happens. When column count changes as well. And Jesus Christ, hold up. Yeah, and when the tag that we have selected changes. So yeah, it's actually 3. 3 different situations. I actually want to test something. We currently have 2 master windows. What happens if I make it smaller? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I was wondering that maybe if you have multiple master windows and you select only one of them and resize it, maybe it's a bit different behavior, but no, it's actually very consistent. Okay, you might have seen here that my water widget that I showed off in the last stream, now while it's active, it also changes color to be even more obvious, and I find that super neat. I think I'm like slowly Pavloving myself into drinking water consistently, getting myself used to drinking it at least every 10 minutes. That I just decided to drink water before the widget came up just now, which I find super fucking cool. Alright, let's talk about frequent, as I call them, updaters. So, you have a bunch of functions that update your widgets, because for some of them, there isn't a signal that you could hook into. Well, maybe there are, and I just haven't found them, but this widget, for example, changes if my Wi-Fi is disabled and if connection strength changes. This Bluetooth, actually this should be in cyan. This Bluetooth thingy changes is if, once again, Bluetooth is off and if it is connected or not. I don't think there is a signal for this in Awesome Window Manager, because it's not really the window manager's job to know about things this specific. So what I end up having to do is to just update them every once in a while. And I have quite a few updaters. Let's count them. 10 of them. I have 10 of them. What happens if you execute 10 shell commands every second? Because it's a pretty reasonable time period to set. Like, oh, for fuck's sake, I forgot to change the bitrate. I should definitely change it on the next stream. Definitely. Okay, what happens if you, 1 second, updating all of your widgets every second is a pretty reasonable thing to jump to. However, what happens if you execute 10 or more shell commands every second? Once the second has passed, boom, immediately 10 fucking shell commands. You're probably not going to notice it, but it's a large peak. In one kind of moment, you're doing a bunch of things at once. And I actually have been able to notice it back when I ran all of my updaters every second. If I typed in this widget, I noticed it's lagging out sometimes. It was like visible. Because AwesomeWM is actually single-threaded, even though it does have async. But it's single-threaded, so when you're trying to use another widget, you might notice it. You might notice all of those updaters going wild. Even though it's not that much processing power, when you do all of it at once, it's harsh. So what I decided to do is every 200 milliseconds, execute the next updater. So essentially how it works is that we start, right? We update the layout widget. Then we update the Bluetooth widget. The next, after 200 milliseconds have passed, we wait another 200 milliseconds. We update this one, the Wi-Fi widget. 200 milliseconds pass, we update the mic muteness widget, and so on and so forth until we reach the last one, at which point we just go over to the start and repeat the process once again. Let me shut up my cats. Hold up. Ooh, I can actually make use of my OBS thingy. Hold up. Boom. Isn't that cool? Boom, I'm back. So, the benefit of doing this way, is that every 200 milliseconds we execute one or maybe two, or however it takes to update a single widget, shell commands, and that is not as harsh. Where am I? Oh, here am I. So we create a table where we contain all the function objects of the updaters. Then we have this code. Essentially, anytime it is executed, it executes the next widget updater in that table, and then it resets. And in Window Manager, awesome. Wow, meow, really? Okay. What was I on? Yeah, so this might be false because if you do the math, it should be false. We have 10 here. We multiply it by 0.2. We get, what, 5? Wait, that sounds really wrong. Okay, we divide it by 10, we get 1. We multiply it by 2, we get 2. Ah, here we go, yeah. So if you do the math, we essentially update each widget every 2 seconds rather than 0.1. Which means that you could... Why is it tabbed now? What is my X remap got broken, which was actually shown to me in this widget that I just completely didn't notice. Okay. You could set the period to something like this, and then it would be equivalent in this case, but it depends on the amount of updaters that you have to run. But 02 is enough for me, and that's why I set it this to be this. But honestly, let's try this and try to see a difference. So currently, it is still the old one, the 02. And here's how this widget feels like. Now, let's restart Awesome Window Manager. I hope that doesn't break streaming in some way. I mean, aside from the terrible bitrate. Jesus. Yeah, that's sort of unwatchable. I wish I could like change the bitrate mid-recording. I probably can't. But let's see. Can I? Wait, I can? Set it to something like 4K. Whatever. For this. Can I do this? I can do this? Oh! Oh, I thought I couldn't. Interesting. So you can just change that midstream. I don't think my computer can handle the 6800. But then again, I haven't tried, so let's actually try that. Maybe this will make it better quality. Like, noticeably so. 6800 it was, right? I don't have to click on this a billion times to change it. It just kind of feels nice to me for some odd reason. And now it's excellent. I hope there is a considerable difference that you can notice. I don't know. I guess I can watch the VOD later, but I'm probably going to forget to do that. Right, let's check how this widget feels now. Okay, in my previous tests, after I set it to 01, I started noticing considerable like delays, but I'm no longer noticing them. So okay, I'll set it to this. And even something like 05 is something you can do. It's still going to be better than all of these commands at once in a single second. Or maybe I'm lying to you and actually doesn't matter whatsoever, but it's something that I noticed. It might be false indeed, but it's something that I noticed. Yeah, I could be talking about my ass. But it fixed my issue that maybe got fixed because of something completely different. Who knows? Okay, what other things did I want to talk about? Oh, by the way, I configured screen key, so now you see my keys again, which is quite neat. Yep. Let me actually show you a bit more signals that I am currently using, so that you can know a bit more of the power that you have. You can do code when the geometry of your screen changes. So I assume that means that if you maybe connect a different monitor, this will execute. Or maybe you switch to a different monitor. I'm not sure. This is like a default thing that I just didn't remove. Even though I have a single monitor. A lot of configuration, default configuration in AwesomeWM, make sure to think about multiple cursors. And I deleted some of it from my config since I only have a single monitor. And I don't feel like I actually want more monitors. If anything, I might get a bigger singular monitor, but not more monitors. Believe it or not. I actually really like the single monitor kind of workflow. We have the single, the signal of when your mouse enters the client. And here I have it so the focus follows my cursor, because I used to have it on KDE as well. And yeah, I quite like it. However, it's not what I want precisely. So currently my mouse cursor is here on VS Code, and it's also the focus window. I move my focus to Kitty, and what happens if I move my mouse cursor now? Nothing happens. I have to specifically enter a window to move focus to there. I actually dislike it. I would much prefer it so focus is under where my mouse is. Or rather, when my mouse moves, not necessarily enters a window, but just moves over a window, focus should be there. That's the feature that I want, but I don't know if it's possible in AwesomeWM. And yes, I'll just going to continue calling WM, like window manager, as VM. I don't know, it's so much easier to pronounce W as V, even though it's just wrong. Okay, so windows can be urgent. That happens when they request your attention. On Windows, you might remember this as Windows blinking orange. And you're like, why are you, like, fuck off? They're being urgent there. KDE also has this. AwesomeWM, obviously, too. It's a pretty common concept. Some windows become urgent even though I didn't ask them. For example, Spotify, which is exactly what I do here. If a window is urgent and it is Spotify, ignore the urgency. So you can control which windows are urgent. Now, you might say, oh, why don't we just remove urgency everywhere, always? Well, urgency is actually useful on KDE and AwesomeWM, and I'm sure in other desktop environments and window managers. Let me give you an example. Let's go to here and do timer, like 3 seconds, and move out of the way immediately. You can see the pink tag is the tag that has an urgent window. You can actually set a hotkey to go to the urgent window. For me, it's Meta C, and I immediately go to whatever is urgent. I find that amazing. I love that. It's very, very useful. I feel there's this like a slight slowdown of my system. It feels a bit more clunky than usual. I think that's just me streaming though. But it's not been as terrible as I thought it would be. Changing the bitrate so much. I hope it's like worth it. I don't know though. Yeah, and the window that is urgent also gets a different border color. The currently active window has yellow borders, and urgent windows will have pink. This doesn't usually, this is not usually visible. But let me give you an example. I do timer 3 seconds here. I move to a different window and a different tag. I switch to, oh, let's move there manually, and now you can see that this window is urgent. But if it was the active window, you wouldn't see the different borders. And also, if you jump to the window and it is immediately active, you remove the urgent status as well. So it's a very specific thing that doesn't usually come up. Okay, we can connect to something very, very useful, like incredibly, when the title of the window changes, which is very useful in situations where a window is created, but maybe without a name, or maybe the name appears very shortly after, and then you want to create a window rule for that window to do something, whatever it is. With property name, you can actually ensure that happens. What I do here, let's go to onMaybeName, is apply some things to xZoom, because funnily enough, it does not have a class, and its window title doesn't appear immediately. It is just straight ridiculous. So I use my hotkey to start xZoom, and you might have noticed that at first it tiled and then it untiled. That is the point at which it gained a window title. Oh, that's interesting. This place is supposed to have the icon, but because xZoom doesn't have an icon, it's just an empty, awkward space. Yeah, so I apply my things here that I want to apply to xZoom, but can't apply directly because the window title doesn't, like, xZoom doesn't start out with a window title. I assume it's just empty or something. I'm not sure, honestly. This signal is manage, so anytime a new window appears, this code will execute. Then a bunch more property things. So when the property maximized of a client changes, so when you maximize or unmaximize, I think, yeah, when you change the maximization of a window, this code executes. Similar idea here. When you float or unfloat a window, on top, sticky. So pretty similar idea. Property layout. Have I talked about this? I don't think I mentioned it. Yeah, I haven't mentioned it, even though it's quite important. In my master and column widget. So anytime I change my layout, which is this, you know, this code executes. And this signal is on a tag of some screen rather than client, which you saw here many times. I'm thinking maybe I do this layout instead. Oh, that's actually interesting. The fact that it kind of ends up being here. What did I expect exactly? I expected that this would clip a bit more here, I guess. I think it looks good, but it's kind of a waste of space, because I don't actually need the length of the terminal that much. So yeah, here's the focus and unfocus signals as well. I was installing themes for the past couple of days, and I don't necessarily recommend this website. It's filled with a lot of kind of ass themes. If you're an Arch user, what you should probably do is already have a theme in mind that probably exists and do something like this. I want this theme, but unfortunately it doesn't build for some reason. I don't know why, and I've been trying to rebuild it a few times. Maybe I need to reboot and then try it again, who knows. But that's going to be like the easier way to install a theme. But still, maybe you manually install a theme. Let me show you how you even do this. Let's go and find something that I remember this theme and it was actually pretty good. Let's go and install it. I can like super notice how my processor is crying when I try to scroll my browser. What do we have here? Dark header bar version, compact. Dark header bar laptop version. What is a laptop version? Are you gonna explain? Okay, it kind of has too many dependencies. I don't want to install it. If you're gonna show an example, you have to show an example that you actually do. At least more or less. Let's try to find a nice looking theme. All of them are kind of meh, don't you think? Actually, what? Interesting. Too many dependencies. Me avoiding parenthood. Based. Also, hi. I haven't seen you in a while. Boom. I just want a theme that is like, doesn't look terrible. Okay, this doesn't necessarily look terrible. I won't necessarily use it. I just want to show you an example of how to install things manually. So we're looking for dark, border less. Yes, so that's what I want. Let's install this one. Download. Any second now, boom. Cool, so we downloaded it. Let's go to downloads. And here we have the zip. So. Oh, I see. Chat became a singular window again once I rebooted Awesome Window Manager. Okay, let's move it back here. Do this again. Boom. So with zips, it's very, very simple. You just literally say unzip. And here you go. You have the folder. I can now remove everything that has a zip. But oftentimes you also see tar.gz, I think, and tar.blah blah blah. Let's actually search in my history. Well, tag tar. Yeah, xz, what the fuck that is? I don't know. It's mostly, oh, gz as well. So how do you unzip those? Very simply, you ask ChatGPT, how do I unzip a tar gz and a tar.xz, I think it was, right? So very simply, you just ask ChatGPT and it will tell you the answer. So here you go. That's how you untar a tar. So we got this folder that has our theme. How do I actually use it? That is a difficult question if you're not using something like KDE, GNOME, or other desktop environments. Those like have the tools for, first of all, looking for, installing, and applying your themes. There it's actually easy. On window managers, it can be assy. It can be quite assy. But the first step is moving the theme to a correct directory. The correct directory being user share themes. That is where your system-wide installed themes are supposed to be. But maybe you're looking through quite a bunch of different themes, you're installing them, keep on installing them. And every time that you do, what you have to do is sudo move this to user share themes. It's not too ridiculous of a command, but having to be constantly entering this full path is kind of annoying. Especially considering that in Zoxide, I can just say the, and here I am. I am just there, we can ls, and we can see all of the themes that I have installed, which are not many. So an idea that I had, let's go back to downloads, is what if I have a way to save the full path of this thing? So I do S for save, we got this. We now quickly move to themes and sudo move variable S here. And we did it. That's a bit nicer than having to sudo move whatever path it was and then user share themes and having to do this again and again and again. But here I'm using the power of Zoxide to immediately jump to where I want to be and just use the very quick variable. So how does this work? I think it should be in general. I don't remember. Yeah. So this is fish shell kind of thing. I don't know how to do it on bash and z shell. I only know how to do this kind of idea on fish shell. We use real path. Let me show you what real path does. We specify real path and now a path or multiple paths. And we get the full path of this relatively specified path. If we specify multiple, like this for example, we get multiple full paths. And that gets saved to a global variable s, which we can then use. And if you specified multiple paths, that still works because the variable s just has multiple arguments on it. So it's very, very simple of an idea that works incredibly fucking well. So I very much recommend it. Now I can go back to downloads and continue installing themes. So the whole process is unzip blammo, then save blammo, And if it's a singular file, you just press tab, which is really convenient. You move to themes, you sudo move this variable here, you go back to downloads. As opposed to sudo move tab, you could press, and then user share themes. You could argue that this is easier and better. That would be a solid argument, but I don't necessarily like entering full paths, even with the power of pressing tab. Because of this bullshit. So I don't necessarily like pressing tab that much, because this can happen where I now have to choose, and it's like a showstopper a bit. So I just often end up typing in full paths manually. And while that may be faster technically, it doesn't feel as good. So at the very least, I think it's a pretty neat idea. There will be situations where it's actually faster and better. So the main idea is just you save some paths to use for later, and you use them later. There are some commands. How do I phrase this? You might have a habit of either, after executing some commands, pressing Ctrl L to clear the screen. I have the same idea, but just different hotkey for this. Or maybe you type clear, which you should actually use clear -X. I feel like in most places, clear -X keeps the contents of what you just cleared, rather than removing them completely. I've shown this off somewhere, some time ago. I don't know where though. But basically you should be using -X. You can read up on it if you're interested. And you might do this quite often. There are some commands after which you basically always want to clear your screen. For example, like git push. If it is successful, you don't care about the output. At least I definitely don't. And if it is not successful, then yeah, you might want to be looking at the output. I recently found a way of doing this. Now, you might be thinking, well, duh, that's very obvious, you just do this. And you might be correct if we add this. You might be correct, however, it doesn't really work on Kitty. Clear -X doesn't work on Kitty. It still clears the available scroll buffer instead of saving it in my scroll back buffer that I could scroll to. Basically, long story short, on Kitty, clear -X doesn't work like it is intended to work. And I recently found how to make it work correctly. Let's go to aliases. And here we have this monstrosity that I found in Kitty docs. And what this basically means is that take the new contents on your screen and scroll them into the scroll back buffer. What is a scrollback buffer? Good question. Right now, I am typing out some command and I don't get moved. But once I press Alt-D, maybe I scroll back to look at something, I start typing again, I get immediately scrolled. Because all of this is now in my scrollback buffer. It's not in my kind of visible screen, I guess. So this god-awful, by all accounts, command moves all of the available screen into my scrollback buffer, which is what clear-x is supposed to do, but doesn't on Kitty for some odd reason. Oops, no. So I made an alias for this, and I made an alias that's even quicker. So something that I can do is now git push and L. So if this git push succeeds, we clear the screen immediately, because we don't actually care about the output if it worked. So an idea that I used to use before, like in the past, and stopped using once I switched to Kitty, is some commands that you always execute. You should also alias to clear the screen after. So for example, sure, let's go to dot files. Here, for example, when I move to this directory using .zoxide, I want it to now be at the top of my screen. I'm not interested in the previous output. Essentially, when I move somewhere, I always want to clear my screen. And the big benefit of this is that I can still scroll back and look at the output that I had before, because it is scrolled into my scrollback buffer, so it still stays. If you used clear-x, it wouldn't on Kitty. In my memories of my testing, I might actually be incorrect. So let's actually test this right now, in case I'm wrong. Let's execute this multiple times, and then clear-x. We scroll, and as you can see, yeah, I was correct. I was ready to be wrong and be happy about it, but no, I was unfortunately correct. We don't see these lines that we executed and their output with -x. Now, if you're using some other terminal, this might work. This maybe works. So check it out, because it's a very, very nice feature. So something I can do is anytime that I execute Z, like I go here, for example, I also execute this. I think it's going to be more obvious if I actually move somewhere. Let's go to themes, and I execute L. Isn't that great? I love that. Same idea about a push. Yeah, sure, let's go to dot files and git push. If it is successful, we also clear the screen. See? And if it failed, it wouldn't clear the screen, so I would still be looking at the output very nicely. I absolutely love this. I think it makes incredible sense, and it's really, really neat. For some commands that you only sometimes want to clear after, or maybe you don't execute them that often, yeah, it works to just do this. That's like pretty fast, all things considered. The difference between writing this in and just pressing the hotkey is with git push, for example. it takes some time to execute the command, and then after you have to press the hotkey to clear. While if you do this way, it does it automatically, which is why it's so valuable in my opinion. So how do you make use of this on a kind of consistent standpoint? You create, oh, whoops, not this, abbreviations. You create abbreviations. I have a lot of abbreviation. There is only one file, I have multiple. You don't have to have as many abbreviations, but you add to an abbreviation that you have this. Let's do JF. Let's go to floral barrel, rather actually share flow. And I want to push this. Now I can do GP, that automatically turns into this. Here we are. Isn't that super neat? So in your abbreviations, you can make this type of thing that essentially anytime that you call this command, you also clear after it. For some of your commands, it might be a bit too ridiculous looking to add this visibly. For example, in Z, what I could make this to be is that anytime I type Z, this is where I end up. And this is kind of, I don't know, it looks ugly, not gonna lie. For a feature that's not very important to be aware of, I guess, when you're looking at the command line, because you're only ever caring about the feature itself. So in this situation, what we'll do is go and create an alias. Yeah, let's create an alias here. When we call Z, oh wait, I remember that aliases automatically append argv, kinda always, in a very annoying way. I haven't fully figured out how it works, but I do remember it being annoying. Let's create a function instead. So when we call Z, we pass argv to Z, and we execute clear screen. We can just type out the full name of the function rather than L, because it's more readable this way, and we don't need to make it like as fast as possible to type in like we usually do. Let's execute aliases, and now when I execute Z, this is all that I type in. You got me flabbergasted. This is supposed to clear the screen. Oh, interesting. Why doesn't it work? Maybe it was a fluke. Sometimes it's a fluke. Oh, wow. It's not a fluke. What the hell? I don't quite understand. Maybe. So currently in our namespace, we have Z, the Zoxide command, and Z, the fish shell function. And binaries, I assume, are stronger, and that's why this function is not recognized and not called. So what we'll have to do is rename this to something else, which is a bit annoying. ZC doesn't sound too bad. Sure, let's do ZC. Let's also add this and this. Yeah. So we do ZC dot. Yes, it does. What? What do you mean? Oh, I forgot to do that there. So ZC dot. Okay, now it does. What the hell? Boom. Let's go to another directory. Oh, I forgot the C. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that Zoxide is a single letter command, because it's not like with usual commands where maybe I can abbreviate loago to low and make an abbreviation this way. I can't abbreviate a single letter, so I have to kind of remember to do ZC. It's like, you know. I could like use the letter D maybe. It's actually more accessible. Let's reboot, I guess. Yeah, that works. I think even better. Nice. Nice and nice. And once again, we can look back and see that all of our previous commands we see here. We don't see the even more previous commands because I restarted the panel. But once I start typing in, I get scrolled. Yeah. That's really fucking nice. So rather than having this whole string of moving on your screen, you just see what you want. So, well, in this case, let's actually change these. So dr is dr, dr is not taken, so that there's consistency in here. Let's do aliases and fn clear. So dr is not recognized right now, but it's going to be now. Dr or doctor. Let's go to something like share floor. It opens Ranger on here. Huh, interesting that it uses a different font color for previews. I wouldn't expect it to be so. And then we come back, this happens. I think I can clear screen before Ranger, because I don't think it's going to be printing any output. Let's check out if that's true. Yeah, that's better. And then we have DL. That's really neat. So we switch to a different directory and immediately ls it. That's really cool. And I can go back. Isn't this a super neat idea? Essentially, you're automating scrolling your screen for some commands that you want to do it like automatically. I think it's super neat. And you can apply this idea to many different commands so that your screen automatically manages itself in a way. I used a thing today on stream that I really enjoy using. It is my note widget. I can write some note here and it appears in this widget. And it just stays there until I do something with it. For example, if I just execute I with nothing, it gets cleared. You can look at my clipboard, that's what I have. We can also execute IX, where we take the contents of our widget into our clipboard. We can, I forget how I do this. I think IC. Let's go and check. I think it's in general. Yeah, so it was IC. So we have, I guess, this in our clipboard. We do IC. Ah, it's specific. Wait. So I guess clip menu is what I'm using for my clipboard manager, which I already mentioned is kind of ass, so I'm gonna try to find another one, hopefully. It also considers my selection clipboard, not just my clipboard. But this command that I have for updating the widget doesn't. It only considers as a clipboard. So yeah, IC puts the text from my clipboard into the widget. IV opens new event for me to edit the widget. Neat, isn't it? IX I already shown. Yes, and the only remaining one is IR. Lets me replace the widget. And you might say, oh, what's the difference between just using I? The difference is that now when I go to my tasks file, the previous text is now at the bottom of the list. So essentially what I can do, and what I want to practice myself into doing, is when I make a new note, I do this configuration related thing. And then when I get a new idea, what I should do is IR another configuration idea. And the previous idea now goes to the tasks list, while the most recent one goes to the notes widget. That's the kind of idea, and I keep on doing it this way. I find this super fucking cool. So let me show the code for it. We have a note widget, which is a text box. It has a margin, Effectively, what I'm doing in all of those functions is that I write to a file, and in the widget updater, I read from that file, I trim the new lines, and I set the text of the widget to that text. Yeah, and it was in general, right? Yeah. Quite important to remember to call the update note function from these functions that you use to update the note widget. You can see that all of these functions call the update note updater. So like the other widgets that I have here, they're automated, like they're updated just very often. The notes widget isn't. It relies on these triggers, basically, the triggers of me using these functions to get updated. I used to use Holup for this, and let me elaborate slightly and just give you a link. I execute Holup, and now I can write here, and I essentially had a hotkey that executed Holup and created a terminal window where I could write, and that's what I used for like a quick note to stay on my screen. But obviously a widget is so much better. So that's what I am using now. In case you don't know what Holup is, let me do something in a very stupid and complex way. Oh, D once again. Let's go to actually DPR. Yeah, wait, no. DPRU then. For fuck's sake. Here we are. Okay. Let me do this. And clone Holup. Matter of fact, I should add the clearing thing to this function. Now it's going to be like absolute ridiculousness, because I'll keep on adding stuff. Keep on adding clear screen to damn near everything. Right, so what I wanted to do is GHL to give you a link to Holup that kind of explains the previous idea that I used to use, because it's still going to be very useful if you don't have an environment where you can easily create a widget like I can. Alright, I think I'm done about the things that I kind of had prepared in my head. Let's actually work on something. So currently this idea of clear screen, that by the way I just discovered right before stream, like today. And before this idea, I have a hotkey Shift Enter that executes a command and puts it as the first command on the screen. And essentially what happens there, let me immediately just show you. Let's go to my kitty config. It's a kitty hotkey. We search for Shift Enter. We combine sending Enter and then scroll prompt to top. Unfortunately, it does it way too immediately. Instead of waiting for the command to execute, so that we don't see the prompt, instead of that, it sends enter and immediately scrolls. So we see the prompt still. And honestly, at this point, I actually prefer it. I think it looks better and gives me more context. It's like, look, that is the command that you executed. If maybe there's some unexpected output, you can look at the command immediately again. Maybe it was the wrong command or something. But this is not always what I want. Maybe I do some command that I don't want to then see. In which case, I essentially want to scroll immediately. Maybe I do this. Instead of seeing the ls, I want to do effectively this. Wait. Hold up. That's stupid. Okay, it doesn't work this way. Of course it doesn't. But this does. Yeah, so there are 3 different possible situations. One where I execute a command and want to see the command in a prompt as the first one on the screen. Pretty common. Then one where I effectively want to do this, where I scroll and I just want to see the output. And another one where I, for example, git push and auto scroll. I want to implement this via hotkeys. Somehow. I'm not sure how they will work and whether they will even work. Like, honestly, no clue. So we have shift enter. Control enter is untaken. It is something I could use. And the most natural thing that it would be using is effectively this, to make this behavior. But the difference is so small that I doubt I care, you know? Same thing actually goes for DL. I actually, at this point, I prefer it to be this way. So let's go and edit DL. I think it was an aliases? Yes. Yes, so let's clear screen before and then Z and LS. Let's try it this way. Because at this point, I don't actually prefer it being this way. I used to prefer it this way. So I'm not very understandable, am I? Okay, let's do DL. Actually, let's reload to make absolute sure. DL dot interesting. Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes sense. Effectively, we have already called the DL command, and just the first thing that it does is that it clears screen. So it doesn't necessarily care about the prompt. And I don't think that's actually an ability of clear screen for what it's worth. Who knows, maybe DL not clearing screen? Because I can do this and just get used to doing it like this. The difference here is that sometimes I might want to look at multiple things. But when I switch to directories and I don't list them, I probably just want to get on with it rather than look at multiple directories. You know? A very slight difference. So making it not automatically scroll, I feel like is a good idea. So we rule out Control Enter being the variant that looks like this, because it's kind of silly and I don't like it. The final one is that Control Enter executes the command, and once that command is done, it executes clear screen. How could we do this? That would be implemented on the fish side. So let's look for fish. Command line, yes, this. So command line dash F execute, I think. Oh, it doesn't really? Yes, so command line dash F execute and clear screen. That's the idea. Okay, let's go to config.fish. Yeah. Bind dash capital M insert control. How do we specify enter? Let's ask ChatGPT. How do I make a hotkey in fish shell for control enter? Does it not? It very much does. There's no built-in way to bind a combination of keys like... Surely there is. Oh. I see what it's thinking I'm doing. Let's do show key. Okay, let's try guessing. That sometimes works. We do execute. And I'm not sure if this will work probably won't, but who knows. Okay, let's do GF. Let's echo. It does not work. Okay. So I don't think I can actually override Control Enter. I thought I could. And I might actually be able to by overriding this. Control J in terminals is considered enter, which might be the reason why it won't work actually. Let's do echo this. Echo ASDF. Oh, this doesn't even work. Okay, what if we command line -f execute and clear screen? Hold up. Interesting, it just completely doesn't work. It's wild. Okay, let's say we override this. Echo ASDF. Oh wait, ASDF. Why is there like an empty space? Yeah, why is there an empty space? That's really strange. Does this work always? This way? Sure. Let's do command line -f repaint. That's so weird. Why? Okay, let's do execute and clear screen. Maybe that's the weirdness that we're encountering here. GF and echo ASDF. Okay, so now it doesn't work. So it has to be this way. Maybe like this it will work for some reason. That's so strange. I assume what it's trying to do here is leave space for the prompt. Huh. Interesting. It's like very, very annoying. Oh, and matter of fact, we like with the behavior I'm trying to achieve here, we are not supposed to see the output. Effectively, what I want to do is after this command finishes clear screen, how do I do that? Good question. I think there's like command line append, something of that sort. Command line append. And we add clear screen. Let's try this out. Echo SDF, and we do this. That's close to being what I want. Command line -f execute. So right, we do this, and here we go. We got the behavior that we want. Nice, 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 nice. But I don't want to touch these hotkeys. They're supposed to be so I said control that bracket in AwesomeWM to close the file, to write and close, as well as capital K, as well as in VS Code actually. And I want them to keep as they are. So I want to have some certain hotkey in relation with enter to do this. Ideally it would be control enter. So let's ask find if that's possible. How do I make a hotkey in fish? How do I make it so when I press control enter in fish, I want to phrase it where control enter isn't the question. You feel me? When I press control enter at fish, it repaints my shell prompt. Oh, come on now. That is so incorrect. No, it's not control enter. It is not. How to bind control enter in fish? I'm hoping there's a way. It's like the perfect thing. Yeah. That's what I thought, yeah. That makes sense, unfortunately. Well, there's another way of doing this. We just... Wait, hold up. Will shift work? Surely shift will work, no? Wait, it shouldn't actually even recognize shift, annoyingly. Alright. Wait, this didn't work, of course. How to rebind shift enter in fish shell. Maybe shift will be different, but I don't think it will work either, unfortunately. Yeah. What about Alt Enter? I'm pretty sure works. Yeah, Alt Enter works, that's the thing. But what it already does is that it adds a new line. I'm gonna return in a sec. Okay, I have one idea that is pretty good. In Fish Shell, you can make abbreviations that expand anywhere. Let's make use of them. So the way they work, you type up some command, and then even though you're damn near nowhere, it works like this. Nice, nice and nice. So just on me pressing enter, I didn't press some special hotkey, just inserted this, boom. It expands on space and it expands on enter as well. So we can make use of this. Aber-a f, let's make it f. I'd prefer it to be D, honestly, but D is already taken by DS. We do position anywhere. Clear screen. Okay, so what this means now is that I type out some command. That's actually very, very, very usable. Incredibly so. What if I want to... Well, here it doesn't matter. Ooh! How do I explain this? Kind of interesting interaction. So, what a command that I can autocomplete. Let's do move. Len? Yeah. So if I press Alt semicolon, this gets autocompleted. And the hotkey that I have is Shift Alt Enter. Both autocompletes this and accepts the command, as in it runs it. And you might say, well, hold up now, you just couldn't make a hotkey with Shift Enter. And now you have Shift Alt Enter. That is because the hotkey is on the kitty side. That's why it's possible. It's not usually possible. Yeah. And Shift Enter is what I've been using to execute a command and put it as the first command on my screen. I actually like that a lot. I want to keep that. So, what if I want to execute this command, if I want to autocomplete it, and then clear my screen? Let's actually think of some command that I can actually execute. I don't think I should execute this one. Actually, no, it's free. Yeah, it's free. So what I do here is I press Alt semicolon to autocomplete it and do this, which gets expanded. And now look at this interaction. If I want to redo this command, now I can just press Shift Alt Enter, because it will autocomplete to clear screen what we just inserted and execute it. You see? Because we already executed it in the past with clear screen, now when we accept the auto suggestion and execute it, we don't need to think about clearing screen because it will do that anyway. Because we've done that this way in the past. So it actually works way better than I thought. However, clear screen is a bit too lengthy of a name, so I want to change it to just CLS. It's technically CLX. CLS is better to type, therefore I'll get used to that being the case. So CLS. CLS. The semantics of CLX are more correct. Actually, what am I talking about, right? Let's go to clear. I have these two abbreviations, which I don't use because they work not in a way that I want on Kitty. And CLX is clear-x, which is essentially what we're doing here. So the abbreviation should be CLX. And well, truthfully, it's not like I'm going to be really typing it out that much. Actually, no, ever. Yeah, because I have an abbreviation for it. It's just this. So I won't ever need to actually type it out, kinda. Fair enough. Okay. So we do and CLX. And here. And in aliases, instead of this being called clear screen, it is CLX now. Let's try to look for a lone L, which sounds kind of funny. And search for clear screen. I see. Let's change that to CLX. It's a bit more readable than just L, but not as long as clear screen, which I quite enjoy. This should actually do CLX too. Yeah, effectively I'll be that's so fucking cool. As I will be executing different commands, with some of my abbreviations, I will automatically add CLX to them when that makes sense. With some of them, I might want to opt in to CLX via I do my command and then boom. Well, this. Oh, it doesn't work because I didn't do this. So we do, and now it actually should work. Oh, it doesn't exist yet. Here we go. So echo. It by all accounts does exist. Yeah. Boom. So I execute my command and very quickly type out this. So that's actually really, really neat. And then with some commands, which output I do want, but I want to also scroll them at the same time, I will opt into pressing Shift-Enter instead. because I want the output. I just don't want all the output before this command. So this will be the case for something like DL that goes to a directory and ls's the contents. With make cd, I'm like doing something new. I probably want to also clear. So yeah, this is super nice. I want CLX here as well. Actually, since I usually execute this anyway, I might as well. Let's try this out. This usually freaks out quite a bit. I mean, close enough, I guess. Close enough to being correct in scrolling. Yeah, that's super cool. Immediately something that I noticed though, it's not here. Maybe it's in general, GF. Oh, right, it's in abbreviations. Let's look for GF. Because it's something that I definitely want to scroll after, because I'm restarting my shell, kinda. Not really, I'm sourcing the config file, I'm updating it, but still, that probably means that I want to clear everything else. So yeah, that's the kind of idea. If you're not using Kitty, the Kitty terminal, and some other terminal instead, this is probably easier for you. That's probably just have been clear-x this entire time. So you can already make use of this idea. Where you make abbreviations, or if you're in bash, you would make aliases, I guess. That just put and to ampersands clear-x after commands that you always want to clear after. Like maybe you don't care about the output if it succeeds. Because the down below ampersand, in case you don't know, you might not. What this means is essentially if the previous command, yeah, actually let me show it to you on a bigger terminal. If the previous command succeeds, execute this command. So it's scrolled there, but it won't. Hold up. No, not clear-x, CLX. Oh, my bad. Yeah, but if we, instead of true, we put false and CLX, it does not scroll. Why in the living hell are you... hold up. I need to specifically restart because it remembers the abbreviation from the last session. And just CLX. I don't actually have to type it out. See, it doesn't scroll here like you would expect because the previous command is false. It did not execute with a success. But if it does execute with a success, it scrolls. So that's why I'm using double ampersand, because if it gave you an error, you probably do want to see it rather than just completely ignore it. Because otherwise you'll maybe, if you have that in your shell prompt, you'll maybe see a thingy saying that the previous command executed unsuccessfully, and then what you have to do is just scroll back to it and just get... That is okay, all things considered. Sometimes that will be something that I do, just scroll back to see the output, but it's not something that I want to do like by default when a command has failed. The default I want is to see that output, and that is what you can do with double ampersands. Let's actually make a commit. And we should add CLX here too. Absolutely, yeah. We should actually make 2 commits, because I did 2 separate things. Kinda separate. Oh no, actually no. I'm not gonna add the CLX here just yet, so that I could see the output of git commit to see what it would change. So let's add the commit. F comes before K. I try to make these combinators of commit topics be in alphabetical order so that they are consistently searched for. So efficient kitty, some commands auto clear after execution. Yes, and this I would specifically want to clear after, because like I already know what I just literally did. If I don't, like, don't get me wrong, if I don't, I can still scroll back, and it's a very simple hotkey. I'm just like, okay, I see, you know? And it even auto scrolls back, like, which is both neat and annoying. I'm not sure how to change that behavior. But yeah, it is something that I want to auto scroll after. So let's go to abbreviations. Let's go to Git. Huh. And look for, yeah. So git add, I'm pretty sure doesn't print any output. But everywhere here, I want to add CLX. And here as well, yeah. I was thinking of the situation that, for fuck's sake, Jesus Christ, that, oh, maybe in amends, I would want to not CLX because of the possible failure. And then I remembered that, oh, right, CLX takes care of that using double ampersand. So the situation I dreamt up in my head doesn't actually happen. Let's go to percent, because it contains even more of these. You might say that this is kind of a lot of work, and you would be correct. I really like creating an argument against myself and not arguing against it. Just kind of accepting it. I think it's really fucking funny. I think it's absolutely fucking hilarious. So, oh wow, you're that old. Now when I reload my fish shell, it fucking scrolls as well. Isn't that super nice? I find that incredible. Okay, so let's try to make a commit. git related, rather git commit push hours automatically scroll. What? What? I literally just... Okay, git commit dash a. That is in abbreviations here. Huh. I missed something, I assume. We were in percent. Yeah, I wouldn't think so. So I'm looking for GOM. I executed GOM. Ah, here are they all. Yeah, I thought that, okay, that's a bit... It's kind of not enough, you know? Or I thought that this is a bit suspicious. Hold up, we can record a macro for this. Let's record ZNA, whatever. I go here, boom, boom. And then now I can ZMA. Nope, not here. Nice. Let's actually look at what I'm executing to see that CLX there is actually helpful. And it is. Yeah. If you really look at this, you'll think that I'm fucking insane for having this many abbreviations. But it's not like I added all of them in a day. I've been using Fishtail for quite some time now. And I really, really like the terminal kind of workflow. I execute a lot of commands. If you look at the how many commits I have, let's actually go and look at that. Let's go look at the amount of commits that I did in the last year. And you'll see that I have 4,600. That's not necessarily that impressive, but it's kind of a lot of commits, which means that I execute these commands quite a lot. That cutting down on extra movement on something this often occurring is actually going to be really good. Well, okay, maybe saying really good is an overstatement. See, like, it just did the thing. That's amazing. It just did the thing that it needed to do. It didn't tell you guys about what it did, unfortunately. It's technically a negative. I'll elaborate though, don't worry. And just scrolled. Just did the action. Boom. That's so nice. So what it executed is add all the files, stage them, and commit those files, recording them into the previous commit that just happened. We amend or edit essentially that commit without editing the commit message, and then we scroll. That's what happened. So that is something that we can do now. That's amazing. Yeah, and alternatively, for some commands, what we can do is execute clear before they are executed, so that their output is guaranteed to be first on the screen, or maybe things that I always want to be that way. That is incredibly super cool. Yeah, and essentially, as I'm going to be using my terminal and doing stuff, I'll notice more and more things that I want to auto-scroll, or effectively have the commands that I'll execute will automatically put my terminal in the correct kind of state. The fact that Z is now an alias to D is not very helpful, because it's not very obvious what's happening there. I guess it's obvious enough, but it's not necessarily clear like it is with abbreviations. I could make it like Z to be Z blammo 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 and then CLX like the other commands. And why exactly do I not? Because it gets hidden anyway at the top. Well, no. It's a command that I want to keep kind of clean. With something like git commit blah blah blah, it doesn't really matter. But with something like going to a directory, I want it to be very clean and clear for when I go and look at it. There's something you can do in execute fish. Did you know? You can use that to reload your shell, by the way. If you're using Z shell, that would be exec Z shell. The negative of that is that it kind of stacks itself in memory, if I remember correctly. Maybe it's no longer the case or something of that nature. I don't remember. Yeah, I'm like thinking that I'm being unfair to the other commands by special casing Z. So let's unspecial case it. Wait, aliases. Let's go to abbreviations, and so Z will now be Z. Actually, this needs to be in percent. So Z will become Z percent and CLX. So we don't need this anymore. ZR will become Z and CLX and Ranger. It also makes these like functions actually more visible and understandable. They show you what I'm actually doing. I hope they don't become too ugly because of that. And ZL becomes Z. And LS. Yeah. Let's function clear. What I'm currently thinking of is adding a hotkey that makes the current command to clear and also executes it. So what I was essentially trying to do with enter. I like this as well, but I don't want it to be the only thing that I have, effectively. Let's go to something like stylus. Yeah, it's actually not too bad, huh? Okay. So I'm currently thinking about the hotkeys that I could use. This already used by Kitty. Alt dot. I'm thinking of moving the Shift Alt Enter hotkey on Shift Alt semicolon. So I think I might as well do that. Oh, whoops. So Shift Enter does that. Actually, no, let's not. What am I trying to do here? Trying to make a hotkey. Does Shift Alt semicolon make sense for the clear thing? No, not really, because I'm not pressing enter to like execute, I guess. And it has to be something that is addable on the fish side. Actually, that's a pretty good idea that I'm currently having. So control enter isn't cacheable, right? But what we can do is remap control enter to produce something else, and then we catch that something else in fish shell. Let's force AI to do this for us, or I'll explain how to do this for us. How do I remap control enter in Kitty to send fucking F1? Doesn't matter. Okay, F5, 12 to fish shell and enter and make a hotkey with F12 in fish shell. It'll figure it out. Oh, it's literally that. Interesting. Well, I guess that works still. So we take this. We take those. And then in config.fish, no. Effectively, this is the idea. Let's see how well it works. We also execute this. Thought so. What if we do it like this? Seems to have worked. Yeah, right. If it didn't, it would say that to us. So I do echo ASDF. Huh? Why does F12 do something? So we are sending F12. The question is, why is F12 doing anything? Okay, I'll try the stupid way of fucking 12. It's not supposed to work. And it doesn't. What are some other keys that are recognizable by fish shell that I could remap to? Because F12, because your thing doesn't work. Are they even the same? Well, they're not. I assume this is alt effectively. And this is then alt. Why does it like keep activating chat? It's very annoying. Is that different to what we have? Oops. So it's lying. If it was not lying, then this would add the actual command and execute it. But it is not doing that. Actually, I had a different idea. So we do something like make alt dot be our hotkey that adds this. So alt dot will do this. And then on Kitty's side, when I press Control Enter, it sends that hotkey and also enter. This should work. How do I send alt dot from Kitty to fish shell? It's not what I'm asking. I mean, how do I make a mapping that uses send text all to send alt dot and enter? I didn't mention enter before, but that's because I know, but I want to be more specific because it doesn't get what I'm trying to do here. That's a lie. That's not true. I don't believe it. That is a lie. Okay, maybe it is true. By all accounts, it shouldn't be. Because somewhere in this magic, alt semicolon is being sent. So, you know, alt dot, let's move this down here. So alt dot will just append this to our command line. Let's do F is the boom. Interesting. We might need to do this. What? Really? What? Can we not? It's got me flabbergasted. Interesting. Let's say, I don't know, G. Alt G I don't think is taken. Yeah, it's not. So it wasn't even correct for fish shell, much less kitty. Cool. I really like dot though. I either want my hotkey to be pretty usable or a complete throwaway like F12. And here I'm kind of having neither of those, which annoys me quite a bit. And show key. Hold up, fish something something. Interesting. Yes. Hold up. To be sure. Oh. That's interesting. When I press Alt dot, nothing happens. That's wild. That's not because of my hotkeys. You think, right? What about this? Unsurprising. What about this? This cannot be interpreted because it's used by Kitty. What do I use Alt O for? Right, of course. Alt P, I don't think is used. It is used. Wait, what is it used with? Ah, the current. Yeah, of course. I feel like Alt Y I would never press or want to use as a hotkey. Yeah, I think Alt Y should work. Boom. I'm hoping this will magically work. X19. That sounds more true. So this will send Alt Y to execute the fish shell hotkey and then enter. Let's see if it works. Echo. It worked. It worked. So now, anytime I want to, so I do echo ASDF, Shift enter will keep the output. This won't. Huh? This won't, I said. Interesting. And super unexpected. What happened there? Okay, so it seems to work again. Very strange. Cool. So, to go over this, to try to put it inside of my head, I also remembered why I like stopped doing things on stream. Like on recent streams, I have usually been just showing things that I already done rather than doing things. Doing things off stream is way easier. Like way easier. You can notice that like I'm shutting down thinking about this. Because doing things is easier than putting them into thought or speech. Like, I don't necessarily even think when I do things on my own. Things just kind of happen, half magically. So it's actually quite difficult to also be streaming it. So echo blah blah blah, alt enter, enters a new line, blah 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 blah, shift enter, keeps the output, control enter doesn't. What happens if we do something like G? How does that happen? Huh. Interesting. Command line dash F expand abbreviation What? Here we go. Oh, but it didn't do the thing. It was supposed to have this also have. Oh, for fuck's sake. What? Ah, because it failed. We do something like, what other abbreviations do I have? This. Okay, this I just don't get. Where does the X come into the picture? I see. So after sending Alt Y, I'm sending Enter too quickly, where it doesn't have enough time to process the command line changes. So actually, let's do it this way. Command line execute. Okay. So we do G. I super don't get it. What the fuck? Like, why does this happen? Yet this works. Isn't this just supposed to be sending Alt Y? I wish I could just execute the fish shell command from Kitty. But I think before I do that, I should end stream and take a rest. So goodbye!